Sometimes the most haunting presence is the one that never speaks. The one whose name is no longer said out loud, yet echoes in the corners of your mind like a memory wrapped in silence. It's strange, isn't it? How someone can disappear from your life completely and still occupy a permanent seat in your thoughts. Uninvited. Unexplained. If he is always in your mind without any communication, it means there is something unresolved, not necessarily between you and him, but perhaps within you. Something that still aches for understanding, for clarity, for closure, and maybe that's the hardest kind of silence, the kind that leaves questions hanging like unfinished stories, the kind that teaches you to breathe in the middle of emotional chaos. People often think that forgetting is an act of strength, that to move on is to erase. But I have learned in the quietest moments of my life that remembering without bitterness is a greater victory than forgetting. Sometimes we carry people in our thoughts, not because we are weak, but because the soul needs time to process what the mind cannot explain. There are some connections that end abruptly without explanation, and yet they linger. Not because the person is meant to return, but because they triggered something inside you. A reflection, a realization, or maybe even a wound you didn't know you had. And so your mind revisits them over and over, not out of obsession, but out of a need to heal, to understand, to make peace with something that remains incomplete. You might find yourself wondering why he still crosses your mind at odd hours. Why a certain song, a familiar place, or the way the rain falls can suddenly bring his memory rushing back like a tidal wave. It's because emotions don't obey logic, and love, even if unreciprocated or unfinished, has a way of planting seeds that continue to grow long after the person has left. But here's what I believe: not every person who stays in your thoughts is meant to stay in your life. Some were only ever meant to stir your soul, to teach you something about yourself. Maybe he came into your life not to complete you, but to crack you open, to make you question your own worth, your own needs, your boundaries. Maybe his absence is the very thing that taught you presence, your own presence. And yet it hurts. That constant thought, that memory that won't fade, that face you still see in your dreams. And I want to tell you it's okay. It's okay to still think of him. It's okay to miss someone who was no longer good for you. Healing is not a straight line. Sometimes the mind holds on long after the heart has let go. If he is still in your mind without ever reaching out, it could also mean he served his purpose. Maybe his silence was the final message. Maybe his distance is your answer. And maybe your constant thoughts of him are simply your way of finally learning what love without communication really feels like. Not love that nurtures, but love that teaches. I've learned that the hardest lessons often come wrapped in the quiet departure of people we once thought would stay. And the most transformative healing happens not when we are surrounded by answers, but when we sit with our questions. And we allow ourselves to feel the confusion, the hurt, and even the hope without judgment. Are allowed to think of him. You are allowed to wonder why he left, why he never said goodbye, why he chose silence over honesty. But remember this: your thoughts do not define your worth. His absence does not measure your value. Just because someone no longer communicates with you does not mean you are forgettable. Sometimes people leave not because you were lacking, but because they were never ready to meet you where you stood. And if the mind keeps bringing him back again and again, don't fight it. Sit with it. Ask yourself what it is that you're still holding on to. Is it the person or the feeling? Is it the memories or the imagined future? More often than not, we grieve not the person, but the potential we once saw in them. Let that sink in. It's okay to love someone from afar, to hold space for them in your thoughts, while making space for yourself in your life. Just don't let that thought imprison you. Don't let the silence between you and him be the silence within you. You still have a voice. You still have a jury. And even if he never reaches out again, if the only thing left between you is distance and memory, you are still growing. Because thinking about him is not the same as needing him. There's a quiet kind of strength in remembering someone who didn't choose to stay and still choosing to move forward. There is courage in accepting that some stories don't end with closure, but with understanding. That some chapters will always live unfinished in your heart, and yet your story can still continue. So if he's always in your mind without any communication, maybe it's time to stop waiting for words from him and start listening to the words inside yourself. Maybe the silence you feel is not a punishment, but a pause. A sacred space where you get to rewrite what love means for you. Let that be enough. If he's always in your mind but never in your life, it says more about your strength than your sorrow. It tells the story of a heart that still feels deeply, even when the world tries to harden it. It shows that your soul remembers love, not because it is weak, but because it honors connection. But the truth is, not everyone who visits our heart is meant to stay. Some people are only chapters, not the whole book. Some are only mirrors, not destinations. Sometimes we confuse memory with meaning. Just because he lives in your mind does not mean he belongs in your life. We often hold on to the echo of someone who is no longer present, hoping the sound will turn into substance. But echoes fade, no matter how loudly they once rang. Presence is more than just a thought. It's action. It's consistency. It's communication. A person who cannot be there for you in the smallest of ways does not deserve to occupy the largest part of your heart. It is beautiful that you remember him, that you still have compassion, that your heart hasn't turned cold. But let that not be the reason you keep opening a door that leads to nowhere. You deserve someone who shows up, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but always someone who doesn't live in your mind only because they're absent from your reality. Love is not about guessing games. It's not about decoding silence. It's not about staying up at night, wondering if you ever mattered. Real love does not abandon. It does not disappear without reason. It does not make you question your own worth. If someone can leave without a word and stay away without a reason, then they've already told you everything you need to know, even in their silence. You deserve someone who replaces your doubts with clarity. Someone who doesn't leave you writing imaginary conversations in your head. Someone who doesn't live in your mind as a mystery, but in your life as a truth. You deserve someone who speaks love not just with their words, but with their presence. Not just with their promises, but with their actions. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't make you beg for attention or wait for breadcrumbs of affection. But first, you must give that to yourself. It starts with realizing that the thoughts you have of him are not love. They are reminders, reflections, and maybe even habits. But they are not evidence that he belongs in your life. Sometimes we hold on to someone not because they're right for us, but because we haven't yet learned how to let go of who we were when we were with them. Ask yourself, are you missing him? Or are you missing the version of yourself that existed in that connection? The laughter you shared, the spark you felt, the feeling of being wanted, needed, understood. We don't always long for the person. We often long for how they made us feel. And that feeling, believe it or not, can come again. It can be found in someone who chooses you completely. But only if you stop settling for someone who exists only in memories. There is a peace that comes when you stop chasing what isn't chasing you. There is power in standing still and realizing that love should not be an unanswered question. It should not feel like waiting by a phone that never rings or checking messages that never come. Love should not feel like holding your breath. It should feel like breathing freely, deeply, fully. And yes, sometimes the mind will resist. It will bring his face back when you least expect it. A familiar scent, a particular song, a quiet evening. These things will bring him into the room, even if he's 1,000 miles away. But that's okay. Let him visit. Let the thought come. And then gently remind yourself, he is not calling. He is not asking how you are. He is not showing up for the person who still holds space for him. And if someone can show up for you in the real world, then they don't get to live in your heart rent-free. You deserve to be someone's choice, not their option. You deserve the kind of love that's loud in action, not just loud in your imagination. The kind that knocks on your door, not the one that lingers on. You deserve someone who answers, not someone you keep writing messages to in your mind, hoping they'll hear you somehow. And if they don't choose you, let that be your answer. If they don't speak, let that be the message. If they remain silent, don't fill the silence with stories. Don't romanticize the absence. Don't call it destiny when it's actually detachment. Don't call it fate when it's really just fear. Fear of facing the truth that they weren't meant to stay. You were not created to wait endlessly for someone who's forgotten how to hold you. You were not born to write poetry about someone who cannot even form a sentence for you. You are not a halfway home. You are the final destination. And anyone who treats you as temporary does not deserve the permanence of your love. So if he still lives in your mind, that's all right. Let it be. But don't let him hold you back from moving forward. Let the thought come and let it go. Feel it, then release it. Learn from it. But don't live in it. Because one day you meet someone who doesn't leave room for silence. Someone who communicates with presence, not just intention. Someone who sees you not as a memory, but as a miracle. And until that day comes, be that person for yourself. Choose yourself the way you've always wanted someone else to choose you. And maybe that is the greatest love story of all. The one where you finally stop waiting for someone to return and instead walk boldly into the life that's waiting for you.